climate neutrality, decarbonization, these are all top of the policy agenda now, practically in every European city and beyond. And to reach climate neutrality, to reach net zero targets, everyone has to be involved, everyone has to play their fair role, fair part. It's not just policy and industry who need to contribute, but citizens, arguably one of the greatest assets cities have at their disposal. Citizens too have to contribute. But then the question is, how do you mobilize, how do you engage and activate citizens to act on climate issues? And now in compare, we think that citizen science is a great enabling factor. By participating in citizen science, and citizen science in a few words is just the involvement and engagement of public and scientific research. So as people engage in citizen science, they can gain a lot of knowledge and skills. They can gain a lot of benefits. So starting with knowledge and skills, for example, in the case of air quality monitoring, people get to learn about which type of pollutions exist. They learn about the sensors, which type of sensors exist and how they can be used to monitor pollution. They can learn how to assemble sensors. That's more practical hands-on skills they can gain. They can learn how to interpret data and read data visualization. So there's a lot of knowledge and skills embedded in citizen science benefits. Now, normally, although some citizen science projects do that, in our case, and generally this is the case, that citizens work in groups, they work with peers to study, to analyze, discuss, identify problems. So there is a substantial social component to citizen science projects. And as people work in groups, as they work with their peers to understand what air quality is like, what problems their neighborhoods, their communities are facing, they can develop a better sense of belonging to the city, to the place where they're living. And some argue that through this sense of belonging, people develop a sense of caring. And caring is an important prerequisite for change. And there are lots of different examples of ways in which behavior can change. For example, when we consider the air quality context, people can take some simple protective measures, such as wearing masks or closing windows or using different routes to get to school or work. Or this behavioral changes can be slightly more substantial. People can switch to different travel modes, such as cycling or public transport. They can switch to different diet. They can switch to different fuel options. They can also become more engaged in democratic life. So they can be more active and even participate in more citizen science projects, because willingness and desire to continue participating in citizen science is also a sign of behavioral change. And so for all these reasons, we think citizen science is really a great enabling factor. It's a really important lever that can mobilize citizens to act on climate change. So there are a lot of benefits on personal level, but citizen science can also deliver quite a few benefits to policy. And if we consider the situation with official monitoring efforts, we have a directive on ambient air quality that's been around for a few years that regulates the measurement of air quality across the EU. The directive is currently being revised to make sure it's better aligned with the Zero Pollution Action Plan, and some even want EU values to be brought closer to the World Health Organization values. In any case, so we have a network, a large network of official monitoring stations across the EU. And this equipment is very accurate, but it's accurate because it's costly. It's quite expensive. And for that reason, you can only have a few stations within a city. And I remember reading an article a few years ago in Brussels, which I believe covers something like 160 square kilometers. That city only had 5 stations, official reference grade stations measuring particulate matter. That was a few years ago. So it can paint a good picture as regards regional average, but these official monitoring stations, they don't show you the situation in inner city pockets. But this is where citizen science networks come in. So what citizen science sensors lack on an individual level, they're not as accurate, obviously. They compensate for with the scale, because these sensors are more affordable. They can be given to more people. More citizens can set up this network, so you have a much larger network with so many nodes that can provide a granular picture of the situation with regards to air quality in inner city neighborhoods. And with citizen science data, if it's complemented with official data from monitors managed by government agencies, you can really understand the hotspots, where the hotspots of pollution are in a city, how this has been developing over time. So in addition to personal benefits that were described in the previous slide, citizen science networks can also deliver benefits to policy. The issue with that, however, is that there has been quite some resistance from policymaking circles to using citizen science results for decision making. And even though these citizen science results have been validated, they have been scientifically validated, because citizen science is not just about citizens doing the measurements. Citizens are doing these measurements under the supervision of experts, scientists. So even though these results are validated and they're following certain scientific protocols to ensure that the results are robust, policymakers are reluctant to accept them for various reasons. Sometimes they say that the results that are produced are not directly relevant to the policies, to the line of work that they're doing. Sometimes it's just the lack of trust in results, whether it's quality of data or the overall setup of experiments. The lack of trust is an oft-cited reasons as to why citizen science results are not accepted. And so that is the context, the challenge for our upcoming discussion on the use of sensors in citizen science, and how especially to overcome this issue of lack of trust.